Welcome, everyone. And we've taken some time off for good reason. There's a lot happening, not just globally, but now it has hit home right here in Grenada really hard. But we are all trying to readjust, and shift gears. And it's not just for the adults, but it's also for the children of the nation, the students, the primary, the secondary, the tertiary students. And a lot of you have been reaching out with the interest of gaining some more insight and having some more features done on this platform as it relates to support systems for your children and the educational system. And I have a lovely lady with me today. This link up is long overdue. I'd like to welcome to Lexan TV a very dear friend, old Anglican high school friend of mine, Miss Andrea Rapier, and she is a lady with a wealth of knowledge. She's going to be bringing a lot of information to you. She's a success coach and, more importantly, an education innovator. Andrea, welcome. So good to see you. So good to see you.
Good to see you, Lexan. Thanks for having me. I know we've been sort of running around, dancing around all the challenges to get to this. And I think everything happens in the right time. So today is the right day. And for the people listening, you're listening. So it's your time to hear it. And Lexan brings a lot of value. And I'm just going to try to do my little part in her big, valuable world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here with me. First off, let's start on a generalized term and the topic of education in Grenada. In your personal opinion, based on your observations and maybe even first-hand experiences, where would you say education is right now?
I would say education in Grenada is dehydrated. And the reason I use the word dehydrated is that it has not been sourced with the life that education needs for our students, not to be able to be successful in our own community, where there's really a starvation of opportunity, but to be successful on a wider scale, on a globalized level, where opportunities now are available no matter where you are, whether you're in China, whether you're in South America, North Africa, South Africa for that matter, Nigeria, it doesn't matter, Israel. Wherever you are in the world, you have access because of technology to opportunities anywhere. And our students are starved of the preparation and the knowledge and the skills and the tools to be able to access that in the future. And every time I use the word future, I want listeners to think that the future is now, right? So every time I say the future, it's really now. But if I say now, I'm keeping your mind on the past. Because right now, what's happening in education, and not just in Grenada, unfortunately, but what's happening in education globally, is that the classic education system that evolved because of the industrialized revolution, where corporations, manufacturing, and this explosion of industry needed a workforce. And so school was the tool to prepare a workforce, to have human resources that's competent and knowledgeable. Well, that revolution has gone past, died. And now there's a new one. It's the technology revolution. And unfortunately, education has not adjusted itself to accommodate this new revolution. And there are two revolutions happening simultaneously: technology and globalization, right? Our small world, your local community is just your backyard now. It's not your world. It's just the backyard. It's a small space in a huge pool, a huge ocean of opportunities and peoples and languages and thoughts and ideas and worldviews. And our students need to be able to fit themselves into that in a constructive way to benefit themselves, their own personal ambitions. When we were in school, and we thought we were going to rule the world. There was no one to tell us otherwise. There were opportunities here in Grenada for us. There were opportunities abroad. And although we did not have access to technology because technology wasn't where it is now, no one told us we couldn't rule the world. We had Mrs. Mason Francis and a great team of teachers who just thought we girls were magic. And so we had this concept. And I look around today in Grenada and I see the impact of that. Look at you doing what you're doing. Michelle Broffett in education, Ruth Roberts, pastoring, working in the ministry. I can go on and outliers that came out of this bunch of people who thought we were going to rule the world. And we are ruling in our part of the world and contributing and making things better for people where we are. I noticed that today our students lack that fire and that drive and that faith in what they're capable of and what the future has to offer. And that's because education has not prepared them. So there's a lack of synergy with what they see and what they know they're actually experiencing. And I think it's time for us to open the hose, open the hose and begin to hydrate education and schooling and what learning really is. Because learning is not making notes on a board, students write it, memorize it, regurgitate it for an exam, and get a 1 in CXC or an A in GCE. That's not learning. Learning is when you take the information and you turn it into an experience and you apply it to make your life better and that of the people around you. And so we need to actually bring learning into education.
Well said. So where it is, and now we move on to where should it be?
That's the exciting part, because as an education innovator, this is what I do. Design where it should be. And first I'll have to say what that's based on. It's based on the foundational things I said before: technology, globalization, right?
Right.
It's based on where education is. One of the things that we have to be careful of is that as we're progressing and evolving, that we don't root up the foundation of education or anything else in our lives, right? We want to evolve and we want to improve, we want to be progressive, but that must be built on the foundation of the past. And so what did the past give us? The past gave us a profile of subjects that are foundations for learning anything: math, English, or I should say language, because if you're in a Spanish speaking country, Spanish would be the basic language that you're learning. And so we have this main menu of subjects that students need to learn. And I think that needs to continue. What needs to happen, though, is that we expand that. So we need to go beyond math and language and social studies and history and biology, physics, chemistry. So technology should be brought to the ABC level of learning. So when the kids are in kindergarten or in stage standard 1, learning all these foundational things, arithmetic and the tables and all of that, they should also be learning coding. They should be learning programming. They should be learning fundamentals of technology at that level, because up to age 11, a student's ability to absorb information is phenomenal. It starts to slow down as we realize that there are impossibilities in the world. But when a child thinks that everything's possible, they're so open to information and they're practical. They want experiencing. Even if you tell a 3-year-old, don't touch it, it's hot, it's going to burn, they're going to reach and touch that very thing, because there needs to be an experience to make that information stick, right? And so education needs to evolve from just regurgitation of information to where information becomes experience and experience becomes expertise. So not only am I really good at English and get an A in a class or be first in class, right? Or get the highest grade. Not only can I do that in English, but I can articulate any thought or any idea or argue any idea on any platform. I know how to take that information from paper and put it into an experience. I can become an expert. I can write books. I can become a motivational speaker. I can use the power of language beyond the sheet of paper and beyond my test. Same for math, same for any other subject. And so education needs to expand the menu of what we're offering and also bring the soft skills. If you do research, if you just Google right now, the top 10 skills that employers are looking for, you do not find a degree on that list. You find things like loyalty, creativity, independent thinking, commitment, punctuality. You find soft skills, communication, critical thinking, right? The ability to collaborate and work with teams, leadership. And these things are not on the basic menu in schooling right now, but they need to be, because you can have a student that graduates with all 1s and all A's, and they're incapable of holding a good conversation, of getting a proper interview, of presenting themselves in a competitive space, of being able to collaborate and communicate to achieve a big goal. They're unable to do that, unable to take thought and take idea as a seed and create something bigger than the information they've been fed. And those foundations must be laid in school. Why in school? Because they're there for 6 to 8 hours a day. and there's only 24, right? And so if you go from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, there's not a whole lot of learning that takes place at night. You go to sleep, you're doing chores at home, parents are coming in from work, they're tired, trying to make ends meet. Next morning, they get up, everybody's on the move. So a student, even for us, our most productive time is that between 6 a.m. in the morning and 6 in the evening. So because students are in school during that time of the day, then it is really vital that schools and education look at education from the development of the whole person, not just the regurgitation of information to get a good grade to say we're the best school, to say we can do it, right? Because the students need success beyond school. And success looks different for each person, but equipping them to make that choice is important. Another thing where education needs to go is to change the classroom. And I'm really practical. And so I want, when I speak today, that a teacher or any educator anywhere hears it and go, oh, I can make an adjustment tomorrow. Even if you're doing a Zoom class, you can make it interesting, right? Like we're having this conversation and this is interesting. So
Sure.
With the pandemic, I've been able to see my own children. I'm a mother of 6. And so I have kids at every level, from elementary level, which we call primary here in Grenada, to college. I got to see school manifest itself online from the full range, and very disappointed with what I witnessed. Very disappointed because the teacher comes to the computer unmotivated and uninspired. If an inspired teacher comes in front of the screen and become a little bit animated, inflect your voice, remove the monotone, be creative, engage the students, some reverse classroom, let them go get the information and come back and teach it to you. How much more interesting and how much more energy, how much more dynamic would be involved in that experience? And so the kids come to the computer dreading sitting there for hours. It's already unhealthy to sit that long in front of a computer. It's bad for the eyes. Let's make it count. Let's make it count. Do something different that will inspire the student. And when they return to the classroom, change it up a little bit. Change it up a little bit. Sitting in front of the desk when you're writing notes with your back to the class, how are you engaging? How are you communicating? How are you getting to know the students on an intimate level? Your back's to the classroom writing notes. So there are other ways. I always say in education, if a student can Google it, you shouldn't be teaching it. Because they can Google. The sun is 93 million miles from the earth. They can Google that. So we're not spending time on that. What we're going to talk about is the impact of that distance. And let the student go find all that information. So you as a teacher is a coach, assisting and facilitating creative thought and independent thought, so that students teach themselves and teach each other. And they will always remember the information, but at the same time, they're developing these leadership skills, communication skills, teamwork and collaboration. And these are skills that if they're with you in the classroom, they should be at all times learning this, at all times expressing and applying these skills. And so education needs to change the format. The physical format of the classroom needs to change the engagement of the teacher. An uninspired teacher cannot inspire a student. Right? I hate math today because of the math teacher I had in AHS. I wouldn't tell you who he is, but I loved math until I had that teacher. And then I struggled with math because he was not communicating with me in a way that made math make sense. So it stopped making sense. Right? And so it's a lot lies on the teacher. Parents, you are educators. Every parent, the moment you push the child out, you have become an educator, a formal, responsible educator. So what the students are learning in school is only part of the picture. Most of the learning, the core, important, vital learning for life must come from you, the parent. And what you don't know, you need to advocate for. Because a student's greatest advocate needs to be the parent and the student. Right. So as a parent, it doesn't mean that you have to be a rocket scientist. You could literally have no more than a standard 5 education and be a great advocate and educator to your children. Whatever it is you know that has brought you to this point to be able to provide safety and sustenance for your child is something you have learned that you can teach. because that child is going to have to do the exact same thing for themselves and their families in the future. So what skills did it require you to be able to get that job, to be able to sustain it, to start that business? What did you learn when you failed? What did you learn from that bad relationship? What did you learn from the good relationship? These are quantifiable learning information that you can teach your child. And because information is fluid, what you learn in one area of your life is applicable to all other areas. So it may seem small, it may seem like not much compared to physics. But I'm telling you, when that child leaves the classroom, it's going to be what the parents has invested. That's going to be the foundation for everything else. And so parents need to become more involved. And now that the students are in Zoom, and we're sort of fluctuating in Grenada as the rest of the world in virtual learning, back in the classroom, virtual learning, back in the classroom, parents, you have such an incredible opportunity because you get to spend more time with them now. They're not with someone else. Even if you're working, you get to have more influence on the day because you get to leave instructions, you get to set goals, you get to put some demands on your students, on your children. And then when you re-engage them, go back to education, go back to what they're learning, discuss what they're learning in the classroom, and let them develop it beyond that thought. So yeah, you learn this, but what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? Well, go find out more. So my son, he's 11, he made a comment this morning, an observation. He said, I think that girls are naturally more flexible just because they're girls. Because I could still touch my toes and he's struggling to touch his. And he's like, Mom, you're 50. Why are you touching your toes? And I can't. And he said, I think girls are more flexible. I said, well, it's a great thought. It's a good observation, but you need to prove that. So what does he do? He Googles. He goes on Google. Are girls more flexible than boys? And then he got the answer and he got the science behind it. So now I ask, are girls more flexible than boys? Yes. Why? And then he explained why. And now he has information. That took less than 5 minutes, that whole interaction. But now he's learned something. He made an observation. He did the research. He has the information. He's going to meet that information again.
Yeah.
But he also has the skill to know how to take observed information and verify whether he's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And so these are things as parents that we need to do. And parents need to take over education. Take over. It's your child. Take over and become involved, and everything that you know, offload it on them.
For what it's worth, I respect teachers out there. I commend them. It's not easy being a teacher, especially when you have multiple personalities in your classroom. And I was one of them. You spoke about math and your bad experience with math. And I'm thinking, if you are not inclined to understanding math from the get-go, guess what? It will suck.
Right.
Right? And that you putting all of this information out there, Andrea, I realized, I said, I'm like, well, of course, because if you're not interested, you will not be interested. And to me, there are different ways of teaching different children. And I'm sorry, I was one of them. I'm not sorry, actually, because I knew.
No, look at where you've come.
And it's a story I tell people all the time. When I was a little girl, before I was a teenager, I knew what I wanted to do. And to me, I didn't see the importance, and I'm sure there are lots of children out there who don't see the importance. I want to be this. I don't want to be an aerospace this. I don't want to be a scientist. I don't want to. They know what they want, but you have to be able to gauge that journey from start to finish. And I love the fact that you mentioned about your son as well, because my children are like that, especially my younger, my little one. She asks all these questions that even makes you think. And when she asked me, I wouldn't just say, well, it's same thing. I would say, what do you think? Go look it up. Do your research. And it's just something, and she's so intrigued by it, little things like how was sand made and where did this come from and how did that became. You really have to nurture them and feed that curiosity, but allow them also the power, empower them to fend for themselves. That kind of thing.
In your case, like Sam, what should have happened, and this is actually what I'm innovating now. I'm innovating a whole new school system, and I have big dreams. I see the world becoming this system that I'm innovating now with a team of people that have the same vision and get it, right? So in your case, where you knew that this was your area of interest, what school should have done was focus on you developing the skills to get you here. And you would have gotten where you are faster, sooner, with more opportunity than you have now, because you'd have been more well prepared. So school is busy trying to teach a fish to climb a tree. You know, you're so good at swimming, but there's this other thing here you need to know about. And trying to shove a rabbit in the water and say, no, 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 you got to know how to deep dive just in case we have a flood. You got to know how to deep dive, right? When every one of us, I believe that every student within us, God put himself and a unique touch that he's given to no one else. And the journey of life is discovering, recognizing that you have that unique touch, discovering what it is and developing it to its fullness, because this is when you are fully happy. If you were doing something else right now, could you do well? Yes. Would you be happy? No. Would you thrive as a person? Would you wake up in the morning, even if you had 1 hour's sleep, and still be excited? No, because you're not touching the core of who you are and the purpose for which you've been planted here. And so the system that I'm developing is utilizing technology and a pedagogy that says learning is complete only when there's a transaction, when information is exchanged for experience and expertise, and taking the student from very early, profiling the student. What do you like? What color do you like? What scents do you like? What do you dislike? And following this evolution of the becoming of this person, this individual, and empowering them with information and opportunities to practically live out who they are from start to finish. And that will mean bringing in resources. So for example, a student like you, for example, you would be the school journalist, right? Within the school, and students like you would be the school journalist with a television program broadcasting in the school, because you get to develop that skill. Within that system, we will find opportunities at radio, opportunities in TV, and recommend you and say, hey, we have a student who we think can bring value to what you're doing over here. So that students are not waiting till tomorrow to become. When we were younger, we had the liberty to say, when I grow up, I want to be. Do you realize that your kids don't have that? When I grow up, I'm going to be what? It's right now, who I am right now, expressing who I am and evolving and developing that to the best of my ability with resources and people around who get it. So school will look different, and we won't have this division of dumb kids and smart kids, because it's an illusion. Dumb kid, there's no dumb kid. It's a teacher who can't teach a kid. But there's no dumb kid and there's no smart kid. And I know in our environment we have it. And a lot of boys fall into the dumb category, unfortunately. And school was never designed for the male mind. Sitting with a pen and paper, listening to someone lecturing you, taking notes, going back, reciting this, coming back and writing on a sheet of paper. There's no masculinity in that. There's no masculinity in that. And so boys struggle within their education system, and we're losing our boys, which means we're losing our men, because they have not found significance. We've shoved them into a very feminine design space and expect them to thrive. And we say, sit down and be quiet. I'm a mother of 5 boys. I don't remember ever telling my one girl to be quiet. It comes naturally. The boys have high energy. They need to affect their environment. They need to change something. They need to break something. They need to build something. And we sit them down, and I'm passionate about this. And it's a painful thing for me. It's a painful thing for me because I remember, and like you said, when you were younger, you knew what you wanted to do. This was in me all the time. This was in me always. And I remember sitting in Form 3. I remember everything about that day when I had this recognition of this one student who was being treated like she was dumb. Every teacher treated her like she was dumb. And she's on Facebook today doing all this fun stuff, but she was treated in school like she was dumb, and you never expected an intelligent thought to come out of her mouth. How sad to corner a person's entire life in a box of deficiency that's been pushed on them by other people and by a system that has refused to be non-political. And I'm not talking about our government, but education is political. They don't want change. This is how we do it, and this is how it's going to be done, right? And squeeze into a box that they must fit their entire lives on. It is so unfair to an individual. And we've lost people, good people, because of that. We've lost good men. We've lost good women. We're losing good students. And do not underestimate the power of hope. Hope is that little light that says, keep coming, you're going to get to me.
Yeah.
Just keep coming, no matter what. Keep coming, you're going to get to me. And when we don't when we don't create an environment in education where students feel like they're discovering themselves and coming alive within them, we are dimming the light of hope on who they can become.
Yeah.
And it is not fair that any person or any system can do that to another. And so it's so important, parents, that you take education by the horns. So I've made many adjustments with my children since. So I have two children who are doing school in Sweden and in the US simultaneously, because I'm not leaving them victim to any one deficiency, right? So, and they're learning, they're bilingual, and then they're taking a third language right now. And we're pushing that language to fluency, because I know what's happening in the world. And I know the flexibility that they're going to need, the adaptability they're going to need to be able to seize opportunities, whether it's employment, whether it's business opportunity, whether it's relationship opportunity. They must be able to respond to the environment. And more than that, create opportunity when there isn't any. And Grenadians actually have a reputation for being very intelligent people. We are intelligent people that lack opportunity. And we need to begin to teach our young people, give them an environment where they are the best opportunity that they will ever get their hands on. And they can take that opportunity, develop it, explore it, be excited about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses and needs, your flaws, right? Everything about you. And I always say, I love who I am. I love the journey that I've had till now, pain included. I love who I am becoming, because I will continue to evolve. And I love what I bring to the world and what I'm capable of. I love my potential. Everyone needs to feel that way. It doesn't mean that every morning I get up and I'm excited. Some mornings I get up, I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm going to just lay around with a cup of coffee today in my PJs and do nothing. And then the next day I feel guilty that I did that the day before. And then I have days where I get up and my foot hit the ground and there's not enough hours for everything. I feel like I can move mountains, right? We all have that. But in the core of the fluctuating exterior, I am very proud of who I am. I love the journey that I've had, the people who have come in and out of my life, the people who are in my life now, the pain that I've had and what I've learned from that pain, because I'm ever learning, right? What I've learned from that pain, my bad decisions that have taught me things about myself that I didn't want to confront, the growth that I have and that I can give to other people to save them that kind of pain in the journey, right? So everything about my life, the mornings when I went to school with no breakfast, I learned something about that, right? The days when I woke up and I could eat as much as I want, I learned something there too. So everything about my life, there's nothing to be ashamed of, unless I decide to be ashamed of me, because all of it together makes me up, makes me the person sitting here. And that's what, when a student goes to school, what's happening in school and what's happening in education need to contribute to that sense of self-love and appreciation and fulfillment. And then we would have people living with energy, and we will solve our own problems because we can. We're the only ones who can solve our own problems. And we are worth it. We are worth waking up in the morning. I remember chatting with you, Lexan, and I tell you, I have used the phrase over and over since. It's yours, but I stole it, and I don't tell anybody it's yours. You said, I've decided that I'm going to do me. I'm going to do me. And as long as I can handle my SHIT, I'm good. I'm not going to worry about the rest. And I thought, that's it. That's it. That's it. There's a point in life where you've learned enough. You've made enough mistakes. You've had enough experiences where you can apply it and say, you know what? This is me. This is me. This is where I am. This is who I am. And I'm going to just embrace that and take care of my stuff. Whatever that stuff looks like, I'm going to take care of that. And I'm going to do that happily. And I think a lot of the ability to just come to that place comes from the journey. Comes from the journey. And we need to allow our students to have a journey that could bring them to that place. And for everybody, it looks different. It'll manifest itself at different times, but we all can get to this place of satisfaction with what we've been given and what we've been able to give. And I hope that, number one, I'm intending on contributing to that change, not just in Grenada, but in the region and the world. But I do hope that each person listening will sort of decide within their own selves that now, today, let me add some flavor to the journey that I'm in as a parent. Let me dive into education and really become the educator of my child. As an educator, as a teacher listening, you know what? Let me think of what I could do better. That kid that I'm losing, this student that's failing my subject, how can I help them discover themselves? Because this is what it goes back to. How can I help them discover themselves and develop the confidence? What can I do to bring them there to where they can actually perform and outperform their expectations?
You're just about to travel on a path of discussion that I really wanted to put out there as well, in terms of the schools and the school system's responsibility in human resources development. So
right. All of us are human resources. Right? And I like using the word human resources because when we think of human resources, we think of the workforce, we think of employment, we think of business. All of us is a resource to something and someone. I think every country has a responsibility to look at its population as human resources.
Yes.
The nation is the people in it. So we are all 110,000 of us here on Grenada. We are the human resources of our country. Our performance affects our GDP. Our performance affects the health of the country. Sometimes we tend to think it's the government, but it's all of us. And the government is a representative of us, the people. And this is why our selections need to be really well thought through, and in harmony and in synergy with where we, the human resources, want to go. And so as human resources, the system, the school system, which part of that is the government, part of it is us, part of it is parents, the school system needs to look at students as a human resources for now and the future. And if you do that, then you have to take a look at industry. You have to take a look at globalization. You have to take a look at technology. You have to look at socioeconomic challenges and successes. And now, within my school, within my classroom, within my little group, within my country, how are we the solution to everything that we just looked at? How do I empower students to create industry for the future of the country? How do I educate students and develop students to be good parents, to create strong families, to create strong communities? How do I develop a healthy people through teaching students how to eat properly, teaching them back to application again? Biology as a subject to pass should not be the goal of biology, although you want your students to pass. Biology is about you. When I study the heart and circulation, we're talking about me. When we talk about vision and the function of the eye, you're talking about me, right? When you talk about the environment, you're talking about me. So getting students to think of the experience of learning being about them and about their capability and their ability and their contribution, their knowledge, their skills, and their abilities to their community, to the nation. Right. So the school system, if we think that way as a system, then education will evolve continually. Mm-hmm. You leave the foundation rooted, but what you're growing from it needs to continue to be branched and branched and branched so that our nation can be sustainable. We could solve our own problems. We don't need the UN to solve our problems. We don't need them to send people from Europe or the United States to teach us. We have people here who are educated, who are a resource to our country. We have students sitting in classrooms from kindergarten to university, who in this learning environment, it's a great opportunity to assess what we need in the country in the next 5 years. Like the Form 5 students right now that are graduating, they're going into college and into the workforce. 5 years ago, we should know exactly what they're going into and prepare them for it. So right now, we should be looking at Form 1s. In 5 years when they come out, here are the skills that they're going to need. So now we need to have this interjected in our program, still keeping the foundation, but adding to the foundation the things that we need so that they could be fruitful for the nation in the next 5 years. You know, a kingdom, if we think of the old medieval times, a king's success was measured by his people. The success of the peasants was how you measure the success of the king's leadership. And a teacher's success is really measured by success of the students way out in their lives. Like we AHS girls are so indebted to Mrs. Mason Francis. We have her elevated just short of an angel, because of what she invested in us, right? Because of what she invested in us, we AHS girls who came out from Miss Mason Francis, we all have this thing she gave us. I don't even know what to call it, but there's this thing. There's this factor she gave us that makes us stand up strong and take control of the space that we're in. And we're her girls. She calls us to this day her girls. She gave something to us that she knew we would need. And here I am, how many years later? I talk about Mrs. Mason Francis all the time. She is still impacting my life, right? And that's what educators do, for good or for bad. Yeah. So as an educator, if you treat this child like they're dumb, you ignore the fact that you're not teaching them in a way that they're learning, and you leave it on them as being dumb or on the family as being poor, you're having a negative impact that they're going to remember you for, right? Steve Harvey tells all the time the story about the teacher who looks at his paper when he says he wants to be on TV and asks him, has anyone in your family been on TV? No. You stutter. How are you going to be on TV? You need to go write something else on that paper, right? And back to what I said earlier, he had a father who said to him, no, she doesn't get to decide that. Every morning when you get up, you read that piece of paper, you're going to be on TV. And who do we see on television today? The stuttering Steve Harvey, who had a hard time in school and dropped out. That's who we see today, a very successful man. And how do we measure that success? 1, he achieved the goal that he had. 2, he's a contributor to the well-being of other people. We see that all the time in what he does. So we can measure him as a success. He's a man who has raised children and has a family that he's proud of, that is considered to be a good family. He's a happy family, right? So what his measurements of success is, he has been able to meet them. And that's how important. So we can't look at a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old as just some kid. It's not just some kid. This is a human resource for good or for bad. And it's up to us here, now, today. The future is now, to make an impact that this person, this individual, could be a positive resource in our community or wherever they go in the world.
Introducing Color by Sissons. 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 Color by Sissons.
Hi, my name is Shola K. Roberts, and I am the founder and artistic executive director of Dance Innovator. You are now watching Lexan TV. It's all about life.
Can we touch on students' relationship with education and the future?
Schooling has become a chore for students. For all the reasons we discussed so far, it's a chore. Very seldom there's a student who is consistently excited about going to school. One of the reasons is because school is irrelevant. It's become irrelevant. Our students have a device. Yeah. Not all of them, but they all have access to one, whether it's their friends, the neighbors, they have access to images that show them that there's something else happening in the world. But in reality, and I'll speak for Grenada, in reality, there is a disconnect between what they know the possibilities could be and what they're experiencing. So the relationship with education is that education is a chore and it's irrelevant. Even if they haven't thought of it in those specific words, it's irrelevant. If it were relevant to students, they'd be interested. It wouldn't be a chore. They'd be excited because it's relevant, right? So when my son asked this morning about the flexibility, he wanted to know. He was interested. So then he researched it. If he was sitting in the classroom with the boring teacher who said, girls are more flexible than boys, and writes that on the board and writes the reason, that would not be as interesting to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning needs to become relevant and limitless. And what makes it relevant? It's applicable. So when the student encounters the information in school, they have the opportunity to experience it simultaneously. So we learned about clouds in school. You remember?
Yeah.
Cirrus clouds, nimbus clouds, cirronimbus, stratus clouds, stratocumulus. Yeah, I thought it was fun.
A lot.
I love it, so I remember it. But how many times are students, after teacher taking the students outside and saying, let's register, let's observe clouds this week, patterns of clouds, the time of day, the color, whatever observations you make, leave it open. Let's observe clouds this week. Now, let's take that back and let's see if what science says is true. And I'm just giving one way. Science says 1, 2, 3. Is that true? Did you experience that this week? Well, now the students are looking from a critical eye. This is what I experienced. Let's see, is it true? Bam, they just learned everything you want to teach them about clouds. They just learned. Or they have cell phones. Every day this week, take a photo of a different type of cloud. Every day this week, go online and research what type of cloud that is. As an award at the end for the most creative photos or something, right? Now they've experienced the information. You didn't stand there on the board with your back to them writing this information. They didn't sit for hours memorizing, they experienced it. And you can do that with anything. And so students' relationship with education needs to be one that's relevant and limitless, experiential. And if we would do that, they would be excited about coming to school, they would be excited about learning. And learning doesn't always have to happen in school. How about having days where school is not at school today? Why isn't school at the fish market where we're going to observe fish and talk to the fishermen about what's happening in the ocean when they go out at night, if they're out in a storm? All this is good information that you go to a book for. Take them to the fish market. Let them talk to fishermen, right? And so the relationship between students and education is set by the education system. And if the education system will deliver the information in a relevant way, deliver relevant information, let's go to that. Because a lot of the things that we're teaching, even if the subject is right, we're not really giving them relevant information about that. They're still learning what we learned 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? When even science is evolving, scientists are discovering and making corrections to previous theories, right? So we need to get the students involved and responsible for their learning. I, as a teacher, am a facilitator. I am here to point you in the right direction. I am here to help you recognize things in your blind side. But you, my dear, are the learner. Learner is on you. And put responsibility in their hands and let them do it in their unique way. Collaborating with similar students, with similar ideas, with contrasting ideas, with opposing concepts. Mix match it and let students develop a relationship with education that fosters growth and actual learning, applicable learning. And I want to add this as well, because with COVID COVID could be an excuse for everything. And we've kind of used it. We use it for an excuse of why we can't go to tea with each other. We use it for an excuse as why we can't do this or that. And let me tell you something. Every crisis brings opportunity with it. Every crisis brings opportunity. Every challenge you've ever had in your life had an opportunity in it. And if you didn't seize that opportunity, the challenge left you bitter and feeling like a failure. But if you look at your challenges for the opportunity in them, you will find that the challenge is simply a capsule hiding a gem. The gem is inside the challenge. So what gems are inside the challenge of the not inflexibility, but the unreliability of the COVID situation? Things are changing. You don't know next week what's going to be happening. Are we off next weekend? Are we locked down? Are we out? Is school virtual? Is school in classroom? Is it all students? There's so many things that are unpredictable. You know what's predictable? You can create predictability by coming up with a plan. If you sit with your student, and like Lexan, you knew when you were in high school, you wanted to do what you're doing now. So just imagine a student at the age that you were then. If someone has sat with you, Lexan, what are your life goals? Okay. Looking at you from your personality, the goal that you have, finding the synergy, where they meet, also finding where there's a disconnect and saying, okay, if you're serious about this, then here are areas, gaps that you have that we are going to need to fill. And here are the skills that you're going to need to be prepared to be able to do this well. Right? And now everything that you're learning is about you. It's about something you want. It's not aimless. It's not shove everybody inside the box and then see where we all end up. No. It's not aimless. So if parents and schools, and if the school doesn't do it, parents, it's really on you. If you could sit with your student and find out who they are, what they want, what's that quiet dream in them? When they're imagining happiness, what does that look like? Take that information and then help your child create a path to it. And it doesn't have to be complex. It could simply be, okay, you want to be a doctor. That would mean that you need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subjects. These specific subjects, you need an ace. I don't care if you fail history. But you're going to have to pass physics, chemistry, biology, math. You want to fail geography? I do not care. You could drop it for all I care. Right? I actually just did that with my son. He just went to Form 5 and he was taking 12 subjects. And I said, okay, we already know what you're doing. Matter of fact, he started 2 years ago while he's in high school, learning and preparing for the career that he wants. So we're not waiting till he graduates. So he's simultaneously, it's 2 parallel platforms of learning happening at the same time. So by the time he graduates from high school, he's almost ready for his career, right? So we've been doing that. And now he came back from his summer vacation and I said, here's the thing. I gave it some thought. You're taking a lot of subjects. If you take 12 subjects, it means that this parallel learning that you need to be doing is going to suffer. So here's what we're going to do. Let's re-examine the subjects that you're taking and let's find what is required to enrich this. Now we drop everything else. We're not racing and competing with anybody to have the most subjects. No, what we want is you to be equipped for where you are going because it's about you. So we removed those subjects. So he's doing, I think, 8 now. He's going to do very well in them because they're directly related to what he wants to be. And at the same time, he's preparing his career learning outside of the school he's attending. You see what that looks like? So I do not have to motivate him now. He's motivated by his own dreams and his own passion. I don't have to tell him he needs to pass the class. I don't have to tell him he has to study it. This is all on him because it's about him. And that's relevance. And that's the relationship students need with education.
It makes so much sense.
And the kid is happy.
And the pressure is eased.
Yes.
No, there's, yeah.
Indeed. Because what I found, the school that my son goes to, in Form 4, he wasn't socializing. And I said, you talk about people in school that you sort of hang out with at school, but I don't see you hanging out with anyone. And he said, because they can't. They don't have time to even go to a movie. They have to study. Is that balance? How are we preparing the whole person?
Mm.
Social interaction is important for development, and there are skills that are being developed in social interaction. Negotiation skills are being developed when kids hang out with their friends, right? Collaboration skills, coming into agreement, influencing others, leadership, all of that, independent thinking, fighting for your own idea. All of these things are developed through socialization. So they're studying to have 12, 13, 14, 15 subjects. What is that contributing to who they're becoming and what they really want to do?
That's right. Something else.
Right? Finding that balance where the child is happy and they don't burn out, but they're happily on a trajectory to who they're becoming and what they really want to do in life and what they're passionate about, which usually is also what they're gifted at. It's also what they're gifted at. And so, and how does that pay off in the big picture? They behave better in school because they're interested in what you're saying. They're not bored and idle. Better relationships at home because they're happy. And home is facilitating what they want to do and become. They also more selective on their friendships because now they select friends who have a synergy with where they're going in their life. So you solve so many problems, correcting the relationship with education and learning and making it about the student, who they are, who they're becoming.
Let me just say, yes, you and I go way back, but this conversation was not just for the viewers, also for me as well. Very rich, very refreshing, filled with so many thought-provoking information. I am so happy that you made time for me, for Lexan TV, and for the followers of the page of Lexan TV.
Thank you for having me.
Before
Thank
you leave,
closing
thoughts, anything at all? Is there anything you'd like to leave us with today before you?
Yes. Learning is forever. It's continuous. It has no boundaries. Continue learning, and find, especially for those of you who never thought you were smart, especially academically, understand that intelligence reveals itself in different forms, and you are an intelligent being created in the image of God. He couldn't go wrong with you. Are you kidding? He couldn't have gone wrong with you. So to just appreciate the journey and look at the future from where you are and know that you're worth any little dream that's flickering in your heart, and begin to find sources of information and opportunity for learning so that you can get there. Just keep looking at that little light flickering in the distance. And this is for whether you've achieved a lot, because there's more, and this is whether you feel like you have achieved nothing. There is more, there is something, and you're worth the something. You're worth the information, you're worth the opportunity, you're worth the experience, and you're worth the success that you envision for yourself. So go get it, go learn.
Thank you, I will. How can folks connect with you?
So I have a company here called Talc Education, and this is the company that's innovating this new global learning system. And I can be reached at Andrea at talceducation.com. I can also be reached at Andrea Rapier at gmail.com. So just shoot an email. I'm on Facebook as Andrea Rapier, so you can DM me or you can just call me. I think my number is available there, but it's 457-9681. But yes, do reach out to me. And I will add, though, that because I'm a success coach, I work with parents. I do parental coaching, relationship coaching, individual development coaching, you being where you are in life and wanting to go further and just want to have an accurate map to get there and empower yourself. I provide those kind of services, small business services. So if you're starting a business or you have one and you need to know how to maneuver and get to success quickly, I can assist you doing that. And then I do corporate consulting as well. And so, for businesses, they sort of have their cycle and their operational practices that they do all the time. And sometimes they miss the gaps on how they can improve, save money, increase their bottom line. And I can help strengthen that and help them plug some of the gaps and strengthen their human resources. And so you can reach out to me for any of those things. Whatever it is you choose to do when you reach out to me is going to include learning. It's going to include learning.
Well done. Well said. Thank you so much again. I'm really, really grateful that
you're welcome. And thank you, Lexan.
So much knowledge with us.
You're beautiful.
Thank you. Beautiful.
You're amazing.
Thank you so much again. Thank you. So that is the show for today. I want to say a really hearty thank you to each and every one of you who stopped by, checked out episodes, and also, who made suggestions. I have heard each and every one of them loud and clear. I can assure you that I am working on fulfilling your requests. And don't forget to stay tuned, hit the notification button so you are constantly up to date and in the loop as to what is happening on the platform of Lexan TV. Don't forget to share the page with a friend or family member today. And don't forget, if they're not into Facebook, you can direct them to our YouTube channel as well. I also want to say really big thank you to my guest for today, Andrea Rapier. She is truly an amazing woman with lots of information to share. Don't forget to connect with her today, just in case you have a question or two regarding education and support and advocacy. Well, until next time, don't forget to stay tuned to Lexan TV, where it's all about life. Take good care, be well, stay safe.